Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Smarky Heel Wrestling Podcast. I'm your one and only host, Scott James, and if you're still listening 5 seconds in, then thank you for joining me. This is a brand new podcast talking about all things wrestling, why we love it, why we love to hate it, and everything in between. So turn all the lights off, find a dark corner, relax, and listen to this common London guy spout about the one thing we have in common: professional wrestling. First off, this for me, at the time being, is a one-man show, as I said. I'm a complete amateur at this, but hopefully I'm prepared enough to make this as entertaining as I can for you guys. I'm aiming to have a new episode out pretty much every week. It may be every 2 weeks, depending on the free time I get in between working and sleeping and watching wrestling. So it's going to be quite rough around the edges, I think, for the first few episodes. I hope I've got the right sort of setup and the right equipment. A microphone, a laptop, and that's pretty much all you need. That's pretty much all I've got. So hopefully we'll get it started. You'll probably hear a bit of stuttering. There you go. A little bit of stuttering here and there. A little bit of and R and trying to fill in the gaps somewhere in between. I'm not great at editing as well. So yeah, just listen and see what you think. You can follow me on Twitter at Smarky Heel. That's at SMARKYHEEL. And also on YouTube at the same address, Smarky Hill. I'd love to hear your opinions on the show, along with your thoughts on wrestling and subjects you want me to talk about on an upcoming episode. Feel free to comment, message me, whatever you need to do, and I'll try my best to get back to you guys. So, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts and your suggestions. And I'd also like to quickly give a shout out to my boys, Jay Hunter, Mr. OOC, and V1 over at OSW Review. There we go, I said that properly. You guys are absolutely hilarious, and you've inspired me to do this, to keep up. So please, keep up the good work. If you've never heard of their show, then please head on over to oswreview.com after this show, if you still listen at the end, and check them out. A winner is you. So what I want to do for this first episode is talk briefly about what got me into professional wrestling, why I'm still watching it to this day, why I never grew out of it. I say grow out of it, that probably sounds like a bit of an insult, but it's something that certainly my friends, when I started watching at school, it was a fad. It was something that they watched for a few months or a couple of years, whatever, and then moved on to whatever it was at the time, Pokemon and, well, girls probably. But for me, it was something quite strange, really, and looking back at it, it was very, very odd, because now when I tell people, when I've spoken to people about why I love wrestling and what got me into it, they probably either never heard of what got me into it, or they have heard of it and have experienced it, and yeah, they're not too impressed themselves. Basically, it all started when my dad in early 1996 brought home a Sega PlayStation, as my mum called it. She had no idea about technologies, had no idea about pretty much anything to do with entertainment in terms of games consoles or anything like that. So looking at 1996, I would have been 8 or 9, and he brought home a PlayStation, Sony PlayStation, and yeah, that was the start of my gaming. I'd had an Amstrad computer, I had a Commodore 64, but I was probably too young to really appreciate the games on that. But the PlayStation was the brand new thing. It was like, yes, this is awesome. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. My mum and dad, I never went without. I always had food in my belly, and I always still do, by the looks of me. But yeah, I never did went without. I never did go without, but I knew they didn't have a lot of money. I knew that they couldn't afford a lot of things. So my dad bringing home this PlayStation was like incredible. It was something that was just out of this world. And I didn't really get many games for it. It was very rare that we get. I'd probably get 3 or 4 games a year. Probably sounds like quite a lot sometimes. We don't have any money, but bearing in mind that I didn't have a lot of games, I used to play the ones that we had all the time. It was my baby. I loved it. I'd get home from school and I'd do whatever homework, and then I'd play the games. But to sort of tide you over, luckily there was a magazine called Official PlayStation Magazine. It's still around. It's still going strong. I think it's actually printed or made by Sony, obviously if it's official. But every month they'd have a demo disc, sort of 5 or 6 games, tasters of games basically on this disc. And one of those games on this particular occasion was WCW Nitro. Now, if you've never heard of that game, then you're probably quite lucky. It is, well, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It's, even back then, when wrestling was huge, or getting to that point, it was still terrible. But I didn't see it as that. I'm looking at the age, I must have been about 9, and probably shouldn't really be playing the game anyway. I don't know what the rating was. But it was only a demo. You had Hollywood Hogan and Sting to play as. And for a fighting game, it just didn't make any sense. It wasn't great. It was just something that was just thrown together because wrestling was a massive thing. Here you go. PlayStation needs a WCW game. There you go. But it wasn't the actual game. It wasn't the actual gameplay. It wasn't the actual in-ring, anything to do with playing the game. It was the 30-second intro that changed my life, and that's the reason you're hearing my voice now, just talking about wrestling. So this video fired up, and it must have been the actual opening intro to WCW Nitro at the time. And it had Chris Jericho, it had Ric Flair, it had Kevin Nash, Hollywood Hogan, Sting, and the Public Enemy throwing themselves through a table, and I was just hooked, absolutely hooked. Started off with explosions, and these are like mini clips of just slams and suplexes and chops, and it was just something that was incredible. And it was like, I love it, I absolutely love it, like nothing else, and nothing else since. I couldn't get enough of it, and that's quite strange because the game itself was absolutely terrible, but this 30-second clip with a bit of rock music, a bit of sort of strum, like electric guitar, and as I said, the explosions and I don't even know if there was drums in it, I don't know, but my 9-year-old mind was blown. And here I am, having watched I don't know how many matches, having seen so many storylines, having seen wrestlers come and go, careers beginning and ending, moments of joy, happiness. It's why I still watch wrestling today. That 30-second video. And if you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. Just type in WCW Nitro game video or something, and it will come up. And it won't look like much now. It really won't. In 2019, it won't look like much. But to me, back then, that was what got me hooked. And I absolutely loved it and still do to this day. And I think the main reason I love wrestling is because it's quite over the top. It's in your face. It is entertainment itself. And I've invested so much time in it. I've invested so much money going to the shows, buying merchandise, buying DVDs. I'm subscribed to the WWE Network. I have been since it came over here in the UK. Seen so many pay-per-views, and it's something that I love. And that's why I'm talking to you guys about it, because as I said, there's not many people that I know in real life. None of my family really like. There's one person in my family that likes it, but it's not really something we talk about particularly. There's none of my friends like it, none that I see that often anyway. So I think social media has played a big part in being able to talk to people about wrestling and to share an interest in it. And that's why I thought, you know what, I watch a lot of wrestling. Not necessarily a lot of the new stuff, necessarily a lot of Raw, SmackDown all the time. I try and watch NXT when I can. I try and watch an independent scene and Japanese wrestling. I try and get into that. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to vent. I'm going to buy a microphone, I'm going to get a laptop, and I'm going to record what I think. And maybe, just maybe, make some more friends and some more, acquaintances through the wonderful thing that is wrestling and through a podcast. So why not? Let's see how this goes. So it is WrestleMania season, and yeah, as I said, the plan for me is to do this podcast hopefully once a week. I cannot give you a timetable for it. As I said, I'm working, I do shift work, and obviously that life gets in the way sometimes, doesn't it? So in between watching wrestling and doing everything else that I do with my life. I can't guarantee a time this will be up. I can't guarantee it might be a week, it might be 2 weeks. I don't know. But I'm looking to do something. I'm having a bit of structure here, and I want to know what you guys think. So this is the pilot episode. This is episode 1 of the first season. I'm looking to do sort of 10 episodes, 10 podcasts, where each podcast will be something a little bit different. This one's a bit mixed up. I want to try and get a few housekeeping bits out of the way, as I said a bit earlier. And so what I want to talk about now is the WrestleMania episode. I'm going to do a special on the WrestleMania episode. It'll probably be it'll be the week after WrestleMania. What I want to do is get the whole of the WrestleMania week out of the way, so the Hall of Fame, the NXT TakeOver, WrestleMania itself, and the Raw and SmackDown after, and then I'll give my thoughts on the whole lot. That'll be quite a big special, quite a big review. What I want to steer away from on this podcast is reviewing everything every week. It's not really about that. I can't always guarantee that I'll be able to watch every minute of Raw, every minute of SmackDown, anything like that. So I want to steer away from that. And there's plenty of other much better, far more professional podcasts out there, and YouTube channels out there that do that type of thing if you need that. So that's not what I'm going to do. What I want to sort of get on with the podcast is talking about certain subjects, fresh subjects, the history of wrestling, why you guys love it, why I still love it, and why I still watch it 22 years later. And trying to explain it to people that don't watch it, or don't really understand it, or think that it's just sweaty men in pants grappling each other, which essentially it is, yes. But what does it for you? What actually does wrestling do for you? What do you get out of it? Obviously, it's entertaining. It's something that you can just lose yourself in. You can get excited about. It's a range of emotions. For me, over the years, it's always been a release. I know it's predetermined. I know that it is staged. To a point, it is fake. Obviously, I appreciate that they're putting their bodies through absolute hell every single week of the year to put on a show for us guys, and I appreciate that. So I'm not gonna use the word fake for it. I just think, you know what, it's something special. It's got everything. It's got absolutely everything. This professional wrestling. It's got acting, some of it bad, but that also makes it entertaining. Incredible athleticism. I mean, the last few years especially, I've seen some moves that you wouldn't even dream about, when I started watching wrestling. The characters, I think the WWE get this really right. It's the promo work. So the pre-match promos, the music, everything's just like, wow. It's like a 2-3 minute promo. I need to watch this match now. It could be with anyone. Anyone could be in it, right? It could be the two worst wrestlers they have on the roster. You could put Jinder Mahal in a match with, I don't know, Kurt Hawkins, right? I'm not taking anything away from Kurt Hawkins, but I am with Jinder Mahal. It could be just those two on a random episode of SmackDown, and if they put a massive 2-minute promo package in front of it with some great music, and it just makes it right. They do that right. I love that. I suppose I like the American way of things. I went to Florida last year. I've been previously as well, and I love the American style of things, the way they do their sports, their coverage. There's not a moment where you're bored. And if you're bored, then there's something wrong there. That's the American way of things. I suppose the point I'm getting at really is, why am I still watching it 22 years later? Why do I tune in every week? Why do I look at the results pages and the so-called dirt sheets that there are? And why am I doing this? Because I love it. Because it's something that is dear to me. It's like, I've got a fiance, I want kids, I've got my own house, I want to get married. I love wrestling. It's like it's there, it's part of my life, and it hasn't been since the last year where I thought actually this is something that I wish I had done. I wish I had got into it. I wish I had trained up, and I suppose it isn't too late. I'm not in the best of shape, and I wouldn't want to go into any sort of training facility, any sort of wrestling school without, getting in some sort of shape, because that's disrespectful to the business itself. Who knows? Maybe one day that will happen. It's probably a dream, and it's probably a pipe dream, but it's something that I think we all think about as wrestling fans. I think if you might watch a sport because you like watching a sport and you like supporting a team, but I think every single wrestling fan has watched wrestling and thought, I'd love to do that. I would love to get in the ring, take a few bumps, throw a few punches, do a clothesline or so, just something, just get in that ring, because the buzz you get from wrestling is like nothing else ever on this earth. And I think everyone listening to this at the moment will recognise that. So wrestling is it's fucking awesome. It's just awesome. This has made me feel better already. So I'm hoping you guys are enjoying what you're hearing so far. I've tried to structure it. I've made a few notes. You can probably hear me turning pages in a few moments. But this is the thing. I need your guys' help, really. I would love to hear what you guys want to hear. What do you want me to talk about? I've got 22 years of wrestling fan experience in me that I haven't been able really to vent. I've got opinions. I want to hear what you want to hear. What I'm going to talk about next is it's WrestleMania season. As I said, I plan on doing a WrestleMania special podcast, WrestleMania episode of this podcast in a few weeks, especially the week after WrestleMania. So let's talk about something. Let's talk about something out of WrestleMania. Let's talk about Ronda Rousey. What do I think of Ronda Rousey? I think she's great. I'm going to say it. She gets a bit of stick. Some of it fair. She's really a main eventer now, because the women are main eventers more often than they are. More often than they're not nowadays, should I say. I think heel Ronda Rousey the last couple of weeks is miles better, more believable than she has been as a face. She came in because she's Ronda Rousey. Everyone seems to know who she is. She's a superstar, really, isn't she? She came in at the Royal Rumble last year, and it was someone fresh who's a badass, right? It's someone that has already got that. She's the Brock Lesnar of the women's division. That's what I'm trying to get at. And by that I mean she's legitimate, and she can take down anyone she wants legitimately. And that realism added to wrestling is quite rare and very well received. And I'm a big fan. I'm a fan of Ronda Rousey, I have to say. The fans, as they usually do, they get a bit tired of the face and they want to boo them because why not? Yeah, there's probably time for Ronda Rousey to turn heel, and I think she's done fantastic as the Raw Women's Champion. She looks more comfortable in the ring. She looks more comfortable on the mic. And I'm going to say it now, I wouldn't be surprised if at WrestleMania, in the triple threat match with Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, she retains. I'm going to say it. I think she will retain. She'll retain that title. And you know what? As much as I'd love to see Becky Lynch win, I think it's the booking that goes that, right, Ronda Rousey wins at WrestleMania, and that's on the big stage. Everyone's watching that. And then Becky Lynch wins the next month, or a couple of months later. She'll get her moment, Becky Lynch. Don't worry. I'm just seeing Ronda Rousey retaining, and I think that is probably the right decision. I really like Ronda Rousey. I think she needs to slow down in her promos a bit. I think that the heel promos especially just needs to rein it back in, not go so quickly. But what are you going to do? It's something different. She is different. She's got that different look. I think she's great. So I'm a big fan of Rousey. I'm a big fan of what she's done. And being in the ring with great professionals like Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair over the next few weeks and hopefully months, it's going to do the world of good, especially getting that experience out. She's not got a lot of experience in the ring, really. She's done the training, but she's not so-called paid her dues in the wrestling business. But I think she's fantastic. And as I said, I'm not sure. I just don't think that she'll lose the belt at WrestleMania. I don't think she'll lose it. I think she'll retain. Maybe getting the win over Charlotte Flair as to not to hurt Becky Lynch. But I think that's what's going to happen. Sorry, just having a little drink now. I've been talking for 20 minutes. Excuse me, not very professional at all. I'll see if I can edit that out. If not, then you've just heard me cough. Again, I should probably say I don't know how to use the Audacity. Is it called Audacity? I don't know how you say Audacity. It's got to be that. I don't know how you use it. So you're probably going to be listening to one take of me just talking to you. So if I find a way to edit out, I'll probably edit this out as well, and you won't hear it. Most likely, you're hearing me going on and on and on. So I apologise for that. So that was WrestleMania. That's a little segment of what I want to talk about WrestleMania-wise, what I think will happen in that one particular match. I've enjoyed the rivalry so far. I think this whole Becky Lynch trying to chase the dream has been fantastic. Becky just deserves it. She's fantastic. She really is good. And I'm all for the women's division getting that main event status, getting that exposure. Although thinking about it, if they do main event WrestleMania, which is a distinct possibility, I think they could do it. I think they could go on last at Mania. Do I see Ronda retaining then? Probably not. I think if they go on last at WrestleMania, Becky will win. If you see halfway through the show, if you hear Ronda Rousey's music, then she's retaining. It's as simple as that. I think they won't want to end WrestleMania on a low note, and that would be a bad guy winning. I know I've done that a few times before, but I just think that for the sake of the first women's championship match, or the first women's match to end WrestleMania, I think they'd go for Becky Lynch. But I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on it. Again, get back to me on Twitter. On the Twitter. Makes me sound very old. And let me know what you think. What I'd also like to do on this podcast for the next 10 episodes is introduce my top 10 wrestlers ever. So I've had a long think, and who have I really been entertained by over the years? Over the 22 years that I've been watching wrestling, who have I been entertained by? Who has stuck in my mind? So I thought, I'm going to have to make a list. Top 5 list? No. Can't do that. I could swap guys. I could swap wrestlers out. I just can't dwindle it down to 5. So I've gone for a top 10. And if I want to do 10 episodes, I'll do one wrestler every episode until we get to number 1. So I thought, well, my list has got to have a few things, isn't it? It's not just someone that I like. I liked Steve Blackman, but it's not going to make anyone's top 10 list, is he? In terms of top 10 actual professional wrestlers. So what I've got is a criteria here based on in-ring ability. Okay, it's got to be good in the ring, at least solid. Put on a few great matches. I'm not asking for 5 stars every week, but something that a solid match, an entertaining match at the very least. Mic skills. This is debatable with a couple on my list, but I think the characters that they play overrule that. Or if their in-ring talent is so good, the mic skills don't matter. Popularity with the crowd. So that goes without saying. I think everyone on my list is very popular with crowds all over. So I don't think I've got a worry there. They're all main eventers. Yeah, having a look at it. So there's probably a bit of discussion to be had there, but there we go. We'll get through it. I'm sure we'll all get over it. And overall entertainment value and impressions left on me. So basically, watching wrestling, who has just left an impression on me throughout their career. So I'm going to start at number 10, starting from, I suppose, the bottom, you could probably say. I'm working my way up. It's The Undertaker. The Dead Man. Probably be on a lot of people's top fives, maybe even top threes, and obviously a lot of people would say he's the best wrestler that has ever been around. But judging on all of that criteria, The Undertaker for me is number 10. I'm an absolute fan of the Dead Man. I think he's absolutely fantastic. He's a staple of the WWF when I started watching. He was already 6-7 years in the Fed when I started watching back in 1997. It's just awesome. You've got that aura. It's more than just a character. He's someone that you know he's a leader. You know he's a locker room leader. You know how it's not just a dead man aura. He seems to have that about him anyway. It's hard to describe. When you see someone enter a room, it's very hard to describe that person if they've got an aura. Maybe you get what I mean. I think I know what I mean. I try to think of the best version of The Undertaker, my favourite version, and it would probably be the Ministry version. I love the theme. The Ministry theme is just awesome. But I liked it because it was a lot darker. It was a lot more sinister, as I think everything was in the Attitude Era. It was, there was more sex, there was more swearing, there was more blood, and the Undertaker the dial was turned up a lot on the dark side of him. Did I like the American Badass version? I did at the beginning. It was something different. He was quite an arse kicker. It was something that we'd never seen before from him, but it got a bit stale towards the end of that run. I thought, would I want to see it back? It's not going to happen, I don't think. So I'm not too fussed about the American Badass version. But I think the period between sort of 2007 to 2013 was his best for his in-ring quality, the drama. I know we probably only saw him once or twice a year at that point, WrestleMania mainly. But just some of the great quality matches of that period, 07 to 13, Batista, Edge, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, CM Punk. I mean, and obviously a few more matches in between that, but it was just like WrestleMania was obviously the streak, and it was seeing a great match with The Undertaker, and that's what I love. Seeing a fantastic drama-filled match with the Dead Man, and he used to put that on quite a bit. Obviously not so much the last few years, but listen, the man's he's in his 50s. He's obviously in his 50s. I don't know where he is in his 50s, but he's there. So you can't expect that anymore. And he's a true leader. He's one of a kind. I don't think there's going to be anyone else like him in wrestling anymore. I think probably John Cena, you could say, is the leader of the locker room now, really, but he's been phased out quite a bit of his own accord. So there we are. And I think, will we see an Undertaker WrestleMania match this year? Will we see it is it WrestleMania 35 now? They don't put numbers on anymore for some reason. But will we see The Undertaker in another match this year? See, up until last night, I would have said yes. I would have said, yep, he's going to face John Cena. Because I thought last year's effort was very, very weird. I don't know what you guys thought about it. I thought that it was a bit strange. There was a bit of a build-up. John Cena being in the crowd. And then The Undertaker finally comes out. And it's like, right, okay, these two are going to have a match. And it was like 4 minutes long. Not even that, I don't think. And then that was it. It was all done. And I was like, okay, right, that's fine. So I was convinced from the 3 count there, where The Undertaker did a tombstone on John Cena last year at WrestleMania. From that 3 count, I thought, right, this year's WrestleMania, we're going to have John Cena. We're going to have The Undertaker going head to head. It's going to be a staple matchup. That's it. We've had Fastlane. We've had 1 episode of Raw. We've got 20 odd days until WrestleMania, and nothing. No Dead Man, and no John Cena. So I'm still on the fence about it, really. Although, last night on Raw, if you guys haven't seen it, I'm spoiling it for you, but Kurt Angle came out and said, yep, I'm going to have a retirement match at WrestleMania. Don't know who against yet, but yep, it's going to be my last match ever. And that will likely be John Cena. So who knows? Who knows? I think The Undertaker's next match is up in arms. I think he'll be at WrestleMania. I think he'll do it. But we'll have to see. And that's the exciting thing about professional wrestling. That's why I watch it, because even though now there are websites and the so-called dirt sheets and social media, so we know everything that's going to happen before it happens. The odd surprise, especially to a main event scale where there's a return that we didn't expect, we love it. And that's what I still watch wrestling for, partly. To be surprised, to watch it, to escape it, and to just get lost in it for a few hours, you know? And you get the odd moment where you think, that was awesome. That was fucking awesome. I loved it. I absolutely loved that. Doesn't happen a lot. Doesn't happen a lot anymore. I spoil myself with the spoilers, and I'm sure you guys do too. But wrestling gives us something that you can't get from anything else. You can't get from films. You can't get from TV series. You can watch Netflix for days and not get a moment where you think, that was awesome. I will watch that again and again. That will be etched in my brain. Because it's a passion. And we love it. And we watch it week in, week out. And we complain about it a lot. You're going to hear a lot of complaints on this podcast. You're going to see a lot of complaints on social media. And there's people that say, I'm never going to watch the product again. And then they'll tune in the very next week to watch it, because it's almost an addiction, professional wrestling. It's almost an addiction. And it's something that I'll never grow out of. I'll never stop watching. I'll never lose love for, because, again, I've had so much time invested in it. 2/3 of my life has been invested in wrestling as a fan. And it's something that I can see myself watching until the end of my life. So, although some weeks on Raw, it feels like it's going to be the end of my life. But anyway, that's another story for another time. That's a little complaint. I'm going to wrap this up now. And it's been 32 minutes exactly since I just had a look at my little clock there. I'd love to thank everyone for listening. If you are listening, please, this podcast should be up on YouTube, if I can get it up on YouTube. If you're listening there, then thank you for listening there. If you're just listening to it as a podcast, thank you very much for supporting me there. Again, I'm on Twitter at Smarky Hill, SmarkyHeel, and also on YouTube at the same address. I will see you next time, guys. You will listen to me next time, hopefully. Again, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the podcast. I know it's very gritty at the moment. I know it's very haphazard in a way. It's very amateurish. I get that. Practice makes perfect. I will be practicing a lot more. And I hope you guys have enjoyed what you've listened to today. Thank you very much for listening. Good night.